The battle begins. I can't get enough of this arc, and since I published my first video, I've been thinking so much about this fight and the possibility it brings that I think you're listening to a more demented nerd than 3 weeks ago. I'm consumed by this manga, and honestly, if you open this video, so do you. So let's get started. If there was only a fool who thought that Kaido wasn't hurt by Luffy, well, Oda gives us the answer in this chapter. It is confirmed that it did more than a little tickle. As we saw in chapter 1000, this battle between the old and the new era starts with the strongest punch Luffy's ever thrown. Kaido's heart was shaken to its core, and it was perfectly portrayed in the first chapter of the year. With double lines drawn in his factions, we can clearly see the weight of the impact from above. We had to wait until this episode to find out how much damage the attack dealt, but all we have to do now is paying attention to the Emperor's reaction. It's not a simple
"Oh fuck, I can't believe you've done this."
He's contemplating with incredulity, and on his knees, a new man standing in front of him. His perception of Luffy is not the same. Something has changed. How high is your ceiling? That's not something you wonder lightly about an enemy. That is not something you think about a simple pirate. And the best way of showing how big Luffy's potential is Kaido seeing behind him the shadows of the men who could fight against himself. Revujo, Shirohige, Oden, Shanks, and even his former captain, Rux the Shebek. I saw this and it got a bit chilly in my room and in my back. Not gonna lie. Are you implying that you are just as great as they were? I don't see any trace of disbelief from Kaido in this scene. The punch has damaged him, and Luffy is standing, proving his determination of taking him down as Kinemon requested from him. Another thing to be mentioned is that, in the same way we have been shown in this arc the shadows of the characters, we will later see their design of, as Kawamatsu, Ashura Doji, Denjiro, Oden. We have seen more than once the shadow of Shebek, so maybe, we will know Rux the Shebek in a Kaido and Big Mom's flashback. A man can dream. Kaido recalls that this is the ambition he was learning in Udon from that old man of Wanakuni, Hyokoro, the Yakuza boss. With this panel, we have confirmation that Queen reported Kaido about Luffy's recent activity. This contextualization from Kaido's line of thought make him less kind of a dumb villain than we took him for. For example, you can blame him for not killing Luffy and Kid when he only had to go to Udon for the past days and cut their heads off. But he is indeed planning on having the strongest army in the world, so the initial plan was breaking their spirits and make them the perfect servants. He is the strongest creature in the world, and as a strategy, it's not a crazy one, because if you really want the strongest people in the world as the king of the seas, you'd want Luffy and Kid in the end by your side. And now, we know that even though all the stir-up commenced in Onigashima, someone collected the data about Luffy's training and his mentor in the prison. So, this is something to take into account and not only consider him a crazy drunk. The reaction of the supernovas is amazing. Kate is wondering what kind of ambition is that, capable of damaging Kaido? Zoro is acting surprised too. Even though he's been practicing new techniques with Enma, that ambition is also something new to him. Even Killer sees now a glimpse of triumph on the worst generation side. I will discuss about this factor later in the video, but a brief conclusion about this part is that they realize they have to grow their power during the course of this battle if they want to achieve something like Luffy did. After Kaido perceives in Luffy the remnant qualities of old rivals and former partners, he does his Raimei Hake. There is no preparation, just one panel of unbelievable super fast charge strike. The very same attack that one-shot Luffy in the past and made him a prisoner for the Beast Pirates. The advanced observation haki of Luffy did not outmatch Kaido's speed. He tried to read the future, but the club made a subtle contact with his head, making him bleed. Kaido, smiling, congratulated Luffy for dodging it. We'll see more of this attitude along the chapter. Anyway, seeing such a strong character, instead of being furious as usual, properly enjoying the challenge, put me on the track for whatever comes in future episodes. In the opposite spectre of this attitude, we have Big Mom. Her incredulity from last chapter did not last long. She's back at her old self, arrogant and vain. It's kind of annoying, she still treats Luffy like a good-for-nothing baby. He has achieved amazing feats in her territory, defeated her third and first commander, ruined her land, and now he managed to hurt Kaido. I wish her participation in this war was more like a 100% of her potential. Her devil fruit abilities are full of possible gimmicks that can look awesome in the manga panels. I recall her first fight style at the end of the Whole Cake arc, riding tsunami hummies and using the elements of fire and thunder in a mightier way. I definitely want to see more of her Emperor level. She was astounding back there. Well, at least now she's not obsessed with Luffy ruining her anymore. If she was still clinging and avenging her foe, that would have been pretty fun, but also too much for her goofy character. Now, she just wants to annihilate those rookies. So please, do something cool, mama. Because for now, she's just not making any effort at all. She's just an annoying spectator/commentator. Basically, a backseating trash talker. After Luffy got a little injured by Kaido, she grabbed Prometheus. But she could not even finish the name of her attack, Heavenly Fire, because before even pronouncing the F, the vice captain of the Straw Hats made his move. He was ready to be the swordsman Luffy deserves to have as his backup. Like he promised in the chapter 52, he will be the right hand of the Pirate King. And let's recapitulate. Before this moment, all along the journey, we've seen Zoro cut a lot of things. This includes a burger, the giant Jack Beanstalk, half of his legs, Terminator 1, Terminator 2, Monet's low-gear body with no injury, Eminem's low-gear body with no injury, Lenny Kravitz, Kaku's hybrid giraffe zone form, the zombie of the god of the samurais, Ryuma, David Guetta, the Kraken, Puffin Tom Swagen, Or's Tusk, the Dragon of Punk Hazard, half of Dressrosa's town is Picasso's statue, Basil Hawkins war-abide sword scarecrow, and now we have Fire itself added to the list, which, by the way, it's not even a 50% of the things he has actually cut, but it was a very funny one to make. We don't know if Zoro has been practicing any fire-related swordsmanship in Wano, or this is the first time he's been able to pull up these feats. But in his smile, we see confidence and satisfaction. It was hinted since Punk Hazard that Zoro took interest in Kinemon's fire technique. And even if it was off-screen, I'd like to think they exchanged somewhere along the journey swordsmanship wisdom and techniques together to finally get to this war in Wano. Both Luffy and Zoro couldn't help but grin from ear to ear. Luffy recognizes his Wano's friend's sword ability and says it out loud, and Zoro confirms that this is now his technique. Seeing them so happy about it, it's very heartwarming. I know Kinemon means a lot for both of them, and they have him very present in their minds for this specific battle. At this point of the chapter, there is only a single word that could summarize the next interactions. Rivalry. Rivalry is the first thing that connected these three captains. They met each other more than 2 years ago in manga terms and almost 13 years ago for us manga readers. Their attitude of not wanting to owe to the other any favor is clear since the beginning. This rivalry is displayed in the chapter through comedy gags and pure trash talking. They are so ridiculous trying to brag between each other that if I was genuinely out of breath. I don't remember when was the last time I was reading the manga alone and had a big belly laugh. Not wanting to be ordered around is something that was implied even back then. Remember chapter 1000 when Luffy asked Law to move the 9 scarabs out of the battle? Law had in mind to do it before anyone asked, and he needs to clarify right now. Talking about priorities, even in the face of Armageddon, he needs to set his honor clean. It looked like Luffy ordered him around. I wounded his ego. I mean, he felt so salty about it, it's kind of hilarious to think that he teleported Luffy, not to save him from another Kaido's club strike, but to clarify him that he was not taking orders like his subordinate or something. And on top of that, to make him even crazier, Kid calls him a Straw Hat's henchman. This part was too much for me. All these things are proof of how exorbitant their pride is when they are near each other, and how much rivalry was going to imply to their story together. We see now this kind of connection has not changed at all. This connection being the race to the biggest pirate of all times. May sound childish, but they've never moved an inch out of that path. And talking about not moving an inch, Luffy, in front of his biggest challenge ever, a battle against 2 Yonkos, have the brilliant idea of teasing the Allied forces about not flinching. If you move your scrub, 3 grown-ass men, the captain of 3 crews, teasing each other in games level. The last one is a rotten egg. This reminds me of the Luffy we knew in the flashback with Ace and Sabo, lively and free, even when they faced big dangers. I am not going to say that growing a friendship between these 3 characters might be the easiest thing to write, but Oda would be crazy enough to give them a fulfilling connection. Maybe something similar to what Shirohige, Roger and Garp kind of had. Zoro getting angry is an absolute classic. He told him several times along the adventure to stay focused, but I don't think that attack was the big deal. So leaving aside the fact that he is teasing his pirate rivals, he is putting his whole soul to this battle. Luffy being Luffy and dragging the other captains to be even more stupid. Things will never change. Anyway, the beef is not only between captains. Vice captains also enter this game. The level of disrespect in the atmosphere is constant. Zoro recognizes Killer's voice. He is indeed Kamazo, the Slayer, the man with the psychic killer laughter. So yes, we can add here another one to the list of people caught by Zoro, the vice captain of the Kid Pirates. But can we really consider this a killer's defeat or just a Kamazo's defeat? It is true that back then in the Bandits' Bridge both of them had their disadvantages. I mean, Zoro did not put on the bandit. I'm kidding. Zoro not having his 3 blades, unable of using his Santorio, and having a pretty fatal wound in his shoulder is a pretty ugly situation. First of all, Killer was not in his right state of mind. He was forced to become the Shogun's lapdog, forced to kill innocent people, and probably enduring other punishments in order to ensure his captain life. One of the punishments we know is Orochi forcing him to eat a defective smile fruit. So, all we could hear while carrying his traumatic missions is the sound of his own love, the love he always felt ashamed of, and the reason he decided to always wear a mask in the past and hide his smile too. The next disadvantage is directly mentioned by him. He did not have his punishers. the mechanical spinning sides he usually wields attached to his forearms. We did not know until today the name of these blades. I think the disadvantage was clear on Killer's side. He even mentioned that to Zoro. "If I was using my punishers back then, you'd be dead by now, Zorojiro." The Straw Hat Swordsman plainly answered it would have been the same result. But in the end, we have a good ambiguity about the result of a fair duel between these two vice captains. We can only wonder about who would win or expect a duel in the future when they are in equal conditions. For the moment, we have a panel that's even more hype than a hypothetical duel. They did attack Kaido together, and that was an unintended but beautiful combined attack. Onigiri and Beheading Claws was the slashing offensive both vice captains struck into Kaido's neck. In my first read, I wasn't sure if Zoro went for a beheading blow, but now that I read it again, it was. Since all the focus after the attack was Kaido smiling and his neck below with no proper injury, they did not achieve to behead the Yonko. But, just as I said before, they have to evolve their ambition to make him bleed. Find new techniques in the midst of the war. This was emphasized by Zoro, claiming that he needs to unleash his Senma sword a little more. The remaining of the chapter are 3 outstanding double-page spreads. Each one of them corresponds to preparation, delivery, and reaction to the attack of the 3 supernova captains. Kaido awaits them with a happy and excited face. He is willing to tackle the upcoming damage, acting cocky, but also acknowledging them as the monsters they are. And I'll be damned if they are not monsters. What the f***, kid? We get you are wretched scallywog bastard, Sid Vicious on asteroids, or even Johnny Rotten, just take in the literal reference. But this is some next level transformation. It even looks like an awakened devil fruit technique. Like a smaller version of a Douglas Bullett's one from the Eastern Pit movie. It's amazing how creative Oda is getting since the new world started by innovating with devil fruit powers. The previously mentioned Scarecrow voodoo monster of Basil Hawkins, the Big Father Castle of Capone Beggy in Whole Cake Island, and now this metal behemoth of Kid's Devil Fruit. I'd like to think these are not the actual Devil Fruit awakenings, but something very close to it. All these techniques are enriching the attack variety this manga has, setting an even more chaotic final when all these powers clash. This huge mechanized skeleton mixed with guns, spikes, swords, and all kind of scrap metal is called Punk Rotten. I have the feeling Oda has been eager to draw something like this for a while. The level of detail and the portrayal of Kid as a sadistic, edgy punk is perfect. The design of this exoskeleton reminds me a lot of Borderlands video game or Mad Max films. It is so good that I think Revujo's done a magnificent job representing the anarchist spirit of Kid. Thank you very much, you are a virtuous artist. The nature of the attack this humongous Decepticon is about to enlist is hinted in what Kid tells Kaido after transforming. We know you have a tough skin, but can it save you from being crushed and compacted to death? And then, after Luffy's Kong Gun delivers that special compacting assistance he mentioned, smashing with high pressure Kaido's body between his 2 giant metal hands, Punk-wise. This name is not only a badass name, but a logic one too. The double reference is used in this name is first an engineering tool device used to apply pressure and clamming hard materials, and the second reference adding the punk. The word punk is for the British punk band named Vice Squad. With its style and aesthetic actually fits perfectly in Kid's design concept, with all the punky spikes of the skeleton and its threatening look. After low through the spiky rocks attempting to nail Kaido with them, we finally get to the final of the 3 double spreads mentioned, the reaction. As Kaido is emerging from the ground after receiving all the attack like he intended to do, the laughter of both of the Yonkos resonates through all of Onigashima. This battle has only started. And as our main protagonist claimed in chapter 1000 that he is Monkey D. Luffy, the man who will stand above all of them, this chapter ends with our main antagonist now claiming that he will take everything from them, because the one who wins this battle will be the one who gets the closest to be the king of the pirates. Fun extra fact: Vice Squad is not the only musical reference in this manga. We have Gaiman and Sam Funkel as a reference to the iconic folk duo Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel. The Rocketman, the train that references to the most iconic song of Sir Elton John. And the Times, a title of one of the most iconic Marineford chapters, which is the same name as my favorite Bob Dylan song. I highly recommend you to check it out. I'll stay with you until the very end of this journey, my nakamas. See you on the next chapter of this masterpiece of manga.